Okay, so in the last lesson we learned about adding and subtracting matrices and multiplying matrices by a scalar. So now in this lesson we are going to learn how to multiply matrices by each other. So the first thing you need to know is whether you can in fact multiply two matrices by each other. So the way you know to if you can multiply two matrices by each other is if the number of columns in the first matrix equals the number of rows in the second matrix. So in part A, if you look at the columns in matrix A and the rows in part B, the product of these matrices is not defined. So you would say cannot multiply. We can't multiply those two matrices because their dimensions do not match up, okay? So in this next example, if we look at the columns of A, if we look at the columns of A and the rows of B, that allows us to multiply these matrices. So we can say this product is defined. Okay, and the dimensions of AB is going to be 3 by 2. And the way I find those dimensions is I take the rows of the first matrix and the columns of the second one. 3 by 2 would be this product, okay? 3 by 2 would be the product. So we're going to get some practice multiplying a 2 by 2 matrix by a 2 by 2 matrix. So just to start off, we know the dimensions of AB is going to be 2 by 2. And multiplying matrices, you've got to be organized when you do this. So when we multiply A by B, we're going to multiply the first row of A by the first column of B and add them together. So I'm going to do a little bit of highlighting here. So hopefully this makes, I'm going to use my pen. And I'm going to actually take up a lot of space doing this, so I just want to make sure that we understand that. So my first row times my first column of B. So what this is going to be is, this is going to be 1 times 3 plus negative 2 times 7. So the first row times the first column, all right? So that takes care of the top left dimension of the, or top left element of this matrix. Next, to get this other top element, I would take the first row and multiply it by the second column. So this next one is going to be 1 times negative 6 plus negative 2 times negative 1. Okay, so that's my other dimension. So I take my rows, my top row, times the 2 columns of the next matrix. Okay, so that gets me my top 2 elements. Now next, I want to show how we get our bottom 2 elements. And that just concerns the bottom row, 5, negative 4. So I'm going to multiply that by the first column in the next matrix. So I take 5 times 3 plus negative 4 times 7. So I multiplied it by this column, okay? And then to get my last element, I take that second row and I multiply it by the last column of this matrix, of this second matrix. So that's going to be 5 times negative 6 plus negative 4 times negative 1. So it's multiplying rows by columns and adding them together, all right? So each element being multiplied and added together. So my top left element, that's going to be 3 plus negative 14. So 3 plus negative 14 is negative 11. My top right element, it's going to be negative 6 plus 2. So that's going to be negative 4. So that's just me doing the math to find each of those elements. In the bottom left element, it's going to be 15 plus negative 28. That's going to be negative 13. And then the bottom right element is going to be negative 30 plus positive 4. So that's going to be negative 26. So that is my resulting matrix. Okay. So it's just paying attention to the elements, multiplying rows by columns, and knowing to add those together. All right. So with this guided practice, I want you to find the dimensions if it's possible. Okay. Actually, these two are actually possible. I'm going to give you that right off the bat. Sorry. We're going to give the dimensions of our new matrix and then find the product of A times B. So I want you to pause the video and try this, and then I'll have us move on to the backside of these notes. But pause the video, try these, and then check your answers with me. Okay, so these two matrices are a little bit different than the one I showed you. So main thing is to know that this resulting matrix is going to be 3 by 2. So I did the top row times the first column. That's how I got this product right here. Okay. And then I did the top row times the second column. That's how I got this element right here. And then I just worked my way down the matrix. So I got 4, 8 on the top, 16 and negative 8, and then negative 20 and 8. So it's knowing multiplying rows by columns and adding those elements together once you multiply. So for the second matrix, I did the top row times the only column to get 4 times 9 plus negative 6 times 2. I got 24 for my top element. For the bottom element, I took the bottom row times that only column. So 7 times 9 plus 3 times 2 was 69.